Oh. If you've ever finished a training session feeling like this, I'm going to show you exactly why you've had these issues in the past and how to stop them from ever happening again. Maybe like me, you've been to see a physio, been told you got a shoulder impingement, and spent hours warming up like this. Thought that by strengthening your rotator cuff, you were going to get out jail free. I hate to break it to you, I learned the hard way too. These exercises don't result in you actually being able to get pain free again. And the man that I'm about to introduce you to has worked with some of the best CrossFit athletes in the world, including myself, and managed to get me pain-free. And today we're gonna be learning lessons from the best. So I want you guys to meet Buzz. Buzz is the director and owner of Proform Physio, one of the best physio clinics in Sydney. And like I said, has worked with some of the top athletes in the world, such as Ricky Garrard, Khan Porter, to name just a few. So I've actually got a bad shoulder at the moment, so I'm gonna get Buzz to take a look at my shoulder. And I think what would be really cool is we kind of start off with a bit of an assessment, if you like.
What I'm trying to do every time I'm looking at this is like, I'm starting to take note of, okay, well, what am I seeing here that's out of the ordinary? And for Sonny, which one's like your dicky shoulder? It's your left shoulder, right?
Every part of me wants to do this.
Yeah, okay. So if we look at this, here's what I'm looking at, guys. I'm actually looking at these dimples. If I put my right finger on this dimple, my left finger on this dimple, can you see how that his left scapula is a little bit more depressed than it is rotated and elevated versus the right? The way that the shoulders are supposed to work is that when I'm from here and I'm going above head, my shoulders, if you look at Sonny, if he's at the bottom first, okay, so he's got his scapula, his wing bones. When he goes from 0 to about 30, most of that movement happens at the shoulder. From here over to about 90, some of it then starts to involve the scapula, but from here onwards, a lot of that happens at the scapula where he needs to rotate and elevate. Unfortunately for Sonny, on his left side, he doesn't rotate and elevate as high as this side, which if we're talking about impingement and all the rest of it and creating space, the theory is that if he doesn't have that space, he'll have more bunching, more pain, etc. But as I said from the beginning, it's not that simple. There's so much more going on. Could be from here, could be from here, could be from here. And these are the things I take note of when we actually assess on the plinth. So we've looked at your lift, and what we found was that we're lacking rotation and elevation. And sometimes that can come from the back of the shoulder, okay? So if you're getting pain at the shoulder, I wanna look at how good your internal rotation is. So why is internal rotation important? Is because, as you know, keeping the bar close is super key to making sure we get a nice level bar path, which you do exceptionally well. But it's also an indication of how flexible your rotator cuff muscles are. At the beginning, we talked about this. If things are too tight, they can push the arm forward or sideways in the socket, which doesn't mean that we get this stable shoulder. So let's have a look at that. So one thing I like doing with athletes is I'll get them lying on their back. And then what we're going to do is we're going to assume this kind of like 90-90 position with your arms, number one, okay? And then from here, what I'm going to get you to do, Sonny, is I'm going to get you to make sure that your shoulders are flat against the floor, okay? And then we're going to let our arms gently drop towards the floor, okay? Just like that. Now, you're saying that like one side is worse than the other. Where do you feel most of that pain?
The left side is all through the front side of the...
Yeah, very, very cool. So we're looking at like, you know, Sonny's shoulders, and we can probably see, and it's very minuscule here, but you'll see that this angle versus that angle, that elbow is being, or that wrist is dropping lower to the floor versus this one, which means we're lacking more internal rotation on this side, which means that his external rotators at the back of the shoulder are tight, which when they're tight, they can push the arm forward in the socket, which means we're not landing centered.
Like if I forced this, I could touch whilst keeping this down. I can't with this side.
You can't do it on that side, right?
No.
So this is an indication that we need to release the back of the shoulder, okay? Because if we don't, and you have that bar sitting further out from you, even though it's quite minor, and the heavy load, small degrees make a big difference. That would be the first step, is releasing the back of the shoulder.
Would this then, like, say in this scenario, if you were to explain the difference between like prehab and rehab, at what stage would you say comes the difference between the two?
Yeah, so prehab is the stuff that you do before training. This is the stuff that you need to do to be able to get into the ideal positions for weightlifting. If you can't get in the positions, you're not going to weightlift well. I would say this is something that, regardless of whether you have an injury or not, I would be making sure I'm able to keep that bar close by having enough internal rotation. Okay. Rehab afterwards is probably more if you have an injury or if there's something that you're trying to recover from that you've identified a bit later, whereas prehab is preventative. Yeah. So the second assessment that I do is I want to know if that shoulder internal rotation deficit is actually causing you pain, okay? And so what I would do is what's called a Hawkins-Kennedy test, which I get into this position here, and I lock that elbow, that shoulder down, and I try and internally rotate. For me, Sonny gets a little bit blocked there, right?
That's painful as well.
It's painful as well, okay? Whereas this side, we've got a lot more range of motion and no pain, yeah? So this is like one of the orthopedic tests that I would do. We do significantly more. We look at strength as well. So
could anyone do that test?
Anyone can do that test. Like you could just test it on yourself on a wall, for example. Like you could do it here and just seeing whether or not how much rotation there is there versus how much rotation there is there.
Because I think that'd be cool. Because I know that again, loads of people, like a lot of people, go to YouTube for free information because it may not be accessible to get a physio to have a look at it. And I think that, for some people being able to work some stuff out for themselves would be super helpful. So
yeah, doing that,
test yourself.
Hawkins-Kennedy is perfect. Then we're looking at strength, okay? So pushing out against my hands. And I like closing my eyes for this, a bit more romantic and in, but also it's weird when you stare into someone's eyes.
And I feel fine on that.
Good. And no pain there, right? Push up
on this one, out, there was pain.
Gotcha.
In, fine on both.
Yep.
And then, yeah.
Okay, so what we're looking for here is one, weakness. Do you have a weakness or a strength deficit, okay? And so I know we make fun of all the rotator cuff drills, but there is a place for that if I find that is something that is not good on this test. But you feel really strong here.
Would you say that that's like working with strength athletes? That would be a hard test to tell because there is obviously
it's so strong already, yeah. But the thing is, we have a really good way of determining at least a 30% deficit between right and left when I'm testing you anyway. So even though you'd be super strong, as long as I'm resisting you and I can feel that there's something going on here, with obviously knowing your right-hander versus left-hander, I've got to make, have some buffer for that. Then I would know if it's weak or strong. But yeah, it's harder when they are stronger anyway. But yeah, we do our best, right? Yeah. So outwards kind of hurts you, but you haven't got loss of strength. So I'm looking at, rotator cuff issue, maybe. Inwards is pretty good as well, pretty good, cool. We're gonna do this test here, pushing up to the ceiling, not bad. Turning in for me, which puts the rotator cuff on stretch. How's that one? Fine. And coming across the body, up again, which is hard. Yeah, is hard. Right. Yeah. Okay. Which we're putting this on maximal stretch. Okay. When I do this now, go for it.
Yeah, I feel weak in that. Yeah.
In that too. So everything's pointing to external rotators right now for you, right? All good and strong, right? Then I do this test to see if it's more jointy. It's called a bear test. Okay, pushing down on here. Anything there? No. Cool. And then what about this side? Pretty good. Yeah. Generally speaking, that helps test the irritation of the joint, glenohumeral joint, which you seem fine there, which is awesome. Hand behind back, and for most people that do this, is that sore for you?
I feel like I do this a lot. Callum, you were laughing about this earlier because, for me, I feel like this almost relieves me a little bit because I feel tight across the front of my shoulder. Yeah. When I do this, so I do this a lot when I'm warming up.
When you're warming up, yeah, right. So this here, for somebody who has injured their rotator cuff, will find this is very, very difficult to turn in and then push out against my hand.
It took me a while to think about what I was doing,
And another side and change, awesome, and have rest there. So for you, you actually find that relieving, and that is a stretch. It's an internal rotation stretch, which again is stretching your external rotators. So everything we're looking at right now, everything that we've tested, is indicate maybe your rotator cuff, particularly your external rotators, one, don't have enough range of motion, and secondly, are causing pain when we activate them as well in isolation. So if we're looking at flexibility, we're looking at how do I release that. If we're looking at strength, how do I strengthen that, okay? But what you'll find out as well is that strength is not the only thing that's going to make this better, which a lot of physios will harp on about. It's like, oh, you're just not strong enough for your rotator cuff. It's more than strength. Strength is your capacity to do work, but just because you have the strongest rotator cuff in the world doesn't make you a good lifter. So we understood that you're lacking internal rotation, range of motion, right? One of the greatest, easiest ways to do that is to release the back of the shoulder. Okay, so if I was to take Sonny and I have his arm at this, about this position here, what I'm releasing is in here, okay? So there's his mid delt, there's his anterior delt, there's his posterior delt, but all the rotator cuff muscles underneath that delt. Oh, we're gonna have some fun with this. They all attach underneath there, okay? So what I'm gonna get Sonny to do is he's gonna lie on a ball, okay, real hard trigger ball, in that area, and we're gonna apply pressure because what happens when I apply pressure to the muscle, I deprive it of blood. Muscles need blood to stay on. If there's no blood there, the muscle doesn't stay on, and therefore I momentarily relax it. And so once you're on that position, and like it really is pretty tough, and that is you want to try and relax into it. And Sonny's doing really well, put on a brave face here, but it's probably super painful. And if you're game enough, what you can do is gently, not aggressively, with this hand holding this wrist, is just, there we go, just gently get to a point where it's a little bit more discomfort, but not too much that it's going to flare up the shoulder, okay? Remember, we're trying to improve internal rotation and range of motion, which will keep the barbell close, but also release some of those tight muscles in the back of the shoulder, okay? And I would generally hold this for about 2 minutes, you know? After about a minute, there's really nothing else that it does release, but 2 minutes is plenty if you want to. So listen to your favorite song and just kind of do that. Now you have the option of hovering on and off if you'd like to, okay? And just kind of find some sticky points. And if you find that this is no longer serving you, it's not longer uncomfortable, then find another spot. Okay, and as you can see already,
it's becoming so
much more easier to get into internal rotation.
I couldn't touch that at all a minute ago. So.
Cool. So now let's retest. Always when you're doing your prehab, you don't just do it and then hope to God that like your shoulder is better. Retest your meaningful movement, and for Sonny, like straight away, we're on the ground. Do you see what I mean?
I'm not even taking the piss here. Like I knew as soon as that ball went in, like I've done a lot of, well, I snatched yesterday, so I knew that was going to relieve me.
Amazing, and it's probably better than this side, you know. If you're looking at it from where is it higher? It's actually better than your good side, mate. So good. Okay?
Yeah, it released off straight away.
Very good.
But that's mad because I've been doing this all wrong. Like I said, I've been doing everything like, and I think naturally you think when it's like front of shoulder, you're like, there's something going on here that's causing the issue.
Yeah.
Like, does tight pecs come into play here, or?
Absolutely, because you think about pecs, there's actually two pec muscles. You've got pec major and you've got pec minor. Pec minor starts here at the coracoid process, a bit sore. So here is what I'm thinking. When we were looking at your elevation, we were lacking elevation. Pec minor goes from here to ribs 3, 4, and 5. And what it does is it depresses the scapula. If you're overhead, we don't want depression, we want elevation. So if your pec minor is tender, that may be a culprit muscle that's limiting your elevation on that side. So we would need to release pec minor. For pec major, really important because you can't actually get your shoulder overhead if you have tight pecs. Okay, that's why when you're doing bench and you try and snatch, it's like impossible to do. Wouldn't recommend it. But pec major is an internal rotator. If you're trying to externally rotate at the top, plus also come back this way, pec major is going to be a huge culprit for not allowing you to do that. So we need to release that too.
Okay.
Yeah, for you though, we need to then also get through pec minor.
I'm sure you guys have been as frustrated and annoyed as I have been dealing with shoulder pain. I think a lot of the time when people are Olympic lifting, like, yes, I'm saying that there's an element of pain that you're going to be able to have to deal with, but also a lot of us train for fun and for enjoyment, and it becomes very quickly not enjoyable if you're experiencing pain a lot of the time.
100%.
And if it's 5, 10, 15 minutes and we're scratching the surface here to literally do a little bit of trigger point releasing pre-training and it allows you to get through your session easier, no brainer.
That's a really good point, because I know of lifters, CrossFitters that spend probably more time doing prehab than they do in their session. And that's just not a great return on investment of their time, you know? Like being a business owner and that, I just want the things that I know, you know, maybe 2 or 3 things that I can rely on that are going to give me the greatest return in how I can move. And as long as I know that and discover what that is for me, every time I go to the gym, I know I'm going to have a good session. Rather than spending arduous amounts of time doing all the exercise on this time. So what you're going to do is put the ball up against the rig. And if I'm releasing my right side, I'm going to get in this lunge position and I'm going to drive my body into that ball there. And where I want to put it is right here. So coracoid, 3, 4, 5. Anywhere along that spot, you can start here and then kind of move down. And I like these 2 areas because if we do that, if you get right into it, left leg back for me, Sonny. Yep, cool. And you can hold, let's say you have that side in there, you can hold it with your right hand so it doesn't slip in.
Yeah.
And you're just going to like apply pressure into that. And now with this hand, what I'm going to get you to think about, because we really want transfer here, okay? We don't just want to sit on this like we were doing the sort of internal rotation thing. I want you to think about pushing away and reaching and reaching and reaching and going above head, okay? So we don't want to just be lazy through our releases. Like we want to mimic the same things that we're thinking about when we're lifting, which is punching through the bar, reaching, lifting through the ceiling, all that sort of stuff. So if we can
Yeah, I
get
like
more of that and reaching as high as you can and applying pressure, you can even go higher, bro, if you want.
Yeah.
As high as you can. He doesn't want to because it's sore. But
Yeah. And guys, I think what's interesting, like, because I'm experiencing this now, like you guys, as an athlete, a massive part, I think, from me, naively as an athlete, physio, I think, well, unless the physio is going to sit and just put oil on me and massage me for half an hour, 45 minutes, then I don't want to go and see the physio. But we're gaining a lot more, I suppose, in terms of my ability to be able to perform the task at hand by going through practical application of exercises. And I think it's lazy from an athlete standpoint sometimes because they think, I'm going to lay on the bench and just wait till I'm fixed.
yeah.
But you have to dedicate some time and some effort to doing these movements. It's not just going to, Buzz isn't a wizard. Like, you know what I mean? He can't wave his wand and all of a sudden you're fixed. You've got to go away and actually put the time and energy into doing these exercises.
Whatever you put in is what you get out. So if you want to be better at lifting, you want to live a pain-free life, then you just got to do the work.
Yeah, that feels great too.
Cool. Sweet. So we've kind of done those things, right? So we've done 2 like really releasey type drills. Every time we do this, we want something to retest. And at the moment, right now, all we're going to look at is your elevations. So we're looking at the shadows. We're looking at the top of that shadow, top of that shadow. I'm pretty happy with that, right? Cool. So we're not 100%. We're probably like 90, 95. But without him consciously thinking about it, his body now assumes a much better elevation and rotation of this scapula. Now let's say that wasn't the case. I'd be looking at other things. I'd be looking also at like your lat, for example, right? Are your lats limiting your overhead position? We were looking at pec major. Does that limit your overhead position? Then I'd be looking then, if we've ticked all the boxes for a flexibility standpoint, then I'd also be looking at your joint, like the capsule, which is underneath your shoulder. So if there's one hidden thing, like a bonus thing I could tell people that are suffering from shoulder pain that have done all their rotator cuff stuff, all their releases and stretches, is to look at the capsule. Let's go through the capsule, okay? So this drill here is focusing on joint mobility, so how the bones sit together. And to get through the capsule, you're gonna need a barbell. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna find this really sticky point in your armpit where there's like a gunk of tissue. And it's unbelievably painful, but it's so relieving and super effective for overhead. Now, just so that I can show the guys, how do you find that? If I get you to lie on the floor for me, bro, I'll just show you where it sits on the armpit. Because people are going to wonder what point or what part am I going to do it. So, to find the joint capsule, we're looking at the tricep, okay? So the tricep kind of comes in and it finishes about here. The lat comes in and it finishes about here. So where those two connect, about there, if I put my thumb in that spot, that is...
Yeah, it's a pretty uncomfortable feeling at that point.
Yeah. So if somebody's trying to improve range of motion overhead, this is the tissue that I would be getting into.
It's relieving quite quickly though, to be fair. Like, it's uncomfortable, but it's starting to feel a little bit more satisfying now. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. It feels like released after that first, like, few bits that you did.
Yeah.
And now I'm fine now.
Yeah. So I want you to find that same spot on that left side of yours. Okay, and so once you
am I
find
keeping,
that,
like, forward on this, or?
Yeah, so you want to like be over and then pushing down on the bar. Okay.
Ooh.
You found it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a few ways you can do this. So you can raise your arm up and down like you are now.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And I like what you're doing. So you're rotating your body to try and find the angle where you're getting the most amount of pressure.
You'll kind of feel it as you're doing this, guys. Like, I'm feeling quite like a hard lump right in between that groove. Yeah. But like I said, just when Buzz was doing it to me when I was let down, it's starting to ease up quite quickly. I'd say like 15 seconds, I'm starting to feel some relief now. Yeah,
and so when you find it as well, like let's say you found that sticking point, you can either do it there, you can also rotate in and out, that sort of thing, okay? Yeah. Or you can just roll, so you maintain that and you roll through and over. Yeah, all right? And again, 120 seconds, 2 minutes worth of your time on this. Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
So that's the secret hidden gem, that one. Not many people know about it, but really effective if you're trying all the other flexibility drills.
I think what's interesting coming to my mind and thinking like the struggles that you guys will have learning Olympic weightlifting, and especially the overhead movements being so challenging when you start, is, yes, like Buzz said, mobility and range of motion is going to play a part in here, but there's equal amounts to be gained by the releasing of muscles to free up this range of motion as well. And it's really like three-dimensional in essence, that like, yes, we need to now strengthen the range of motion that we have. We need to get that range of motion, but then we also need to release muscles that are potentially restricting us through that range.
Yeah, totally. And I want to drive that home, is that you just can't reduce shoulder pain to one thing, because there's so much that goes on in a lift. What you think about, what you ate that day, what the lights are doing for your perception. There's energy, there's also like fascia, strength, motor control. These are all the things that I would look at, but it's hard to like put that into 15 minutes of content. So what you want to look for is somebody that's able to triage that, to kind of look at the lift in its entirety, look for things that you're like, okay, well, what would be causing that? Let's test that. Once we found that, we give you some solutions. You try those solutions, see which ones work, and then you go to town on those, you know? Yeah. And that'll evolve over time too.
Buzz, thank you so much. This isn't going to be the first video we're going to do with Buzz. So guys, if you've got injuries, things you struggle with, put it in the comments. Let us know what you want me and Buzz to do videos on. And hopefully we can help you guys from afar improve, stay injury-free, pain-free, and enjoy your lifting a lot more. Buzz, thanks so much for today. I'm going to put all of Buzz's information below this video so that you guys can go and check out what he does. He does online consultations as well, which is absolutely sick for those of you that are afar. If you're Sydney-based, he's a very busy calendar, but you can do your best to book in with him and put together a protocol that will serve.
Thanks for having me.